So today we're going to talk about what's called the final rule and what that looks like here in our state of Illinois. So the first thing to know is, yep, it says it's a rule. And I know that there are rules that all of us need to follow. But this rule applies to what are called provider-owned or controlled settings. So a lot of times that is a CILA or a CLF, which is a community living facility, and it also applies to community day services. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is what does this look like and what is it going to look like? Because I'll tell you, we've been working on this. The government told us about this, I think in about 2012, 2014, a long time ago. Well, in 2014, the government said, and this is the federal government, said, hey, here's the final rule. We're going to give you some time to get this together. Well, our first deadline was March 17th, so that's St. Patrick's Day, 2019, okay? We're already at 2022 right now, so we should have been doing this 3 years ago. But the government realized, hey, this is a lot to ask. We're going to give you more time. So now we have until St. Patrick's Day next year to be doing all of this. Okay. So the first thing that the rule talked about was person-centered planning. And some of you guys may remember they've been sending out surveys. We did focus groups on the WOW meetings with people to find out what person-centered planning means to them. Okay, so some of the things that the rule says has to be in there is that the person-centered plan must contain your hopes, dreams, and input. We cannot have annual meetings without you, because the meeting is for you and your supporters to figure out what it is you want to work on the next year, okay? And it is not meant to be a once and done. We do not need to do this once a year and never again, okay? And in order to make that happen, the rule says that it must be written in a way that you can understand. Now, you might be saying, Leanne, I don't read. Well, guess what? Then maybe we'll use pictures. Maybe we'll use a slideshow like this. Maybe we'll use photographs with writing next to it of you doing what you want to do. But the rule says it has to be written in a way that you can understand. And finally, and some of you guys may be doing this already, you get to choose who gets to come. Maybe you want your boyfriend to come, or your girlfriend to come, or your most favorite staff person in the whole world. Maybe you don't want mom and dad to come. I don't know. Maybe you do want mom and dad to come. Okay, you get to choose who gets to come. You also get to choose where the meeting is and what time the meeting is. Okay, so people are going to be asking you all these questions this year as we're getting used to this. So start thinking of that. All right, so I'm going to cover a couple of basics, and then we're going to start hearing from Bob and Tavarus. And these are like, this is kind of like the boring, like, foundation, but the fun stuff those guys are going to talk about. So the rule defines, it describes what does a home and community-based setting look like, okay? It also says what a home and community-based setting doesn't look like, okay? In Illinois, we have some state-operated developmental centers that are really big, have a lot of people living in them. And so the rule doesn't consider that community-based. But when we're talking about community day services, when we're talking about SILAs or the small group homes, those are community-based, and the rule is giving the state and the organizations ideas of what can we look for to make sure that this is happening, okay? It also defines what integration means and supports people to have full access. So integration, that's kind of a big word. So integration means that people with disabilities get to do and go to the same places that people without disabilities get to go, or things that people without disabilities get to do. We all get to do the same things. We all have the same opportunities to experience things. And that's the other thing that the rule says. When it says full access of people receiving Medicaid home and community-based services, what that means, we have people from all over the state here, okay? Up north, kind of by where me and Tavarus are, we live kind of close to Chicago. And so we're going to have different things to do up here in Chicago than Bob has down by Springfield, okay? And so the rule doesn't say that, hey, Bob lives in Springfield, he gets to do the same things that people in Chicago do, because he doesn't live in Chicago. Chicago's not his community, okay? But it does say that Bob gets to do the same thing down by Springfield that people without disabilities and who don't live in SILA or receive HCBS funding get to do, okay? And the rule also says that we want people to be able to choose where they live or where they work from places that aren't all people with disabilities there, okay? So pretty easy so far. Just one more kind of big thing is the rule says that settings or your SILA or your day program must promote individual initiative. All that means is that you get to decide what you want for yourself, okay? It also says that they must promote autonomy. So being as independent as you want to be. So some of you may be like, oh yeah, I want independence. I want to cook for myself. I want to clean for myself. I want to decide on, I want to do my own laundry. And other of you may be saying, you know what? Have at it, okay? I don't want to be that independent. And maybe some of you need more help. And so this rule isn't saying you're not going to get the help that you want and need. It's just saying that we're going to just assume that you can do stuff. And if you want to do it, you can keep doing it. We're going to work with you to see what you want to do, what you don't want to do, so that we can all together learn how we're going to work within the rule, okay? It also says that you will have choices, and that's you deciding what you want. So this all kind of goes together. And lastly, you're going to be a part of your community, with a lot of you already are. All right, Tavarus. So we're going to hear from Tavarus about what's called a residential agreement. Tavarus?
Yes, this is this lease or residential agreement is that, and if you must keep a copy at all times, because if you don't, it could be a situation that's in that lease, but you can't back it up without the proof. I'm gonna give a prime example. I had a situation happen when I kind of first moved in here. The landlord was getting on me about, smoking cigarettes in the apartment, but I said, well, if that was the issue, it should have been in the lease. He argued me up and down. It was in the lease. So I said, okay, you know what? Hold on, sir. I'll be right back. So I went to pull my lease out of my box, and I asked him, I was like, this is the lease you wrote, right? He was like, yeah. So we went over it. Oh, he was like, oh, it ain't in there. He was very apologetic, you know. He was very apologetic. He was like, it's good that you had that lease because, you know, you would say the disagreement into agreement. And ever since then, I have no problems.
Okay, and so the residential agreements that you guys are going to have need to be in a format that you understand, and the rules for the house or where you live will be in there, just like Tavarus's lease. Tavarus's lease doesn't say you can't smoke in the apartment. Some leases at some apartment buildings say you can't smoke in the apartment. Okay, where I live, they just sent out a memo saying no charcoal grills. Okay, so that's now in the rules. And so that's what's in the lease. Like, what do you have to do? If you paint your room bright purple, which is okay, the lease may say it's okay to paint it whatever color you want, but when you move out, the walls have to be white. And
That's true.
Yeah. Do you have that, Tavarus?
I actually don't have it, but he told me that. He said you could paint whatever color you want to paint, but if you ever move, I'm gonna need back the color they are. So I was like, okay.
All right, perfect.
Or if you want to like hang stuff on the wall and all that, said you could do it, but you know, I don't need no type of property damage, nothing like that. It's like, okay.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about privacy, and Tavarus and Bob are going to talk about this. So Tavarus, go ahead.
Privacy, you know, it's to being in the cellar and versus being on your own. When I was staying in the cellar for a little bit of time, it was hardly no privacy. You know, people would come knocking on your door, you coming in. You know, it just didn't feel, you know, like I was privacy area. Then versus to stand on your own, I have all the privacy in the world. The only thing people can't get in, they have to knock on this door. You know, I ain't got to worry about nobody busting in the room. I ain't got to worry about none of it.
Okay, and that's what that is what one of the things that the rule says is that people are going to have privacy. Bob, do you want to share anything about privacy?
The thing that I would say about privacy is that when you live in a cellar with several other people, you try to make it as personal as you can. But when you say privacy, you have your own room, but you have, like Tavarus said, you have people coming in your room because they gotta do laundry or they gotta clean and they gotta clean something or take something out of their closet or whatever. And when you live on your own, you only have staff people coming in and out. That's in my case, which is because I moved from living with people to living on my own, which is great because I get to work and do this presentation without everyone hearing background noise. So that's great. And that is what Tavarus and I are saying, is that it's a lot quieter when we live on our own, and I still get support. You still get support. It's just that we're not with a bunch of people plus staff, which makes it a little more difficult, especially when you have to do things on a certain schedule instead of having your own schedule.
Right. And so we're going to talk about schedules a little bit later, but you guys may be thinking, I don't know a lot about privacy because, you know, when you receive services, we've been doing things the same for a really long time. So this isn't something that we've talked about a lot. And so what's happening is we're talking to you about the fact that you have the right to privacy, which is, hey, people are going to knock, and they probably already are, but now you'll be able to say, hey, don't forget, knock before you come in. Maybe you don't want everybody to read your file. So we'll be talking to you and staff will be finding out, you know, is there anything that you want to keep private? So we're all going to be working together so that we can understand why privacy is important. We can help staff to understand why privacy is important. And really, this is all part of the rule, the final settings rule. So one of the other things, we were listening to RESPECT before we started today, and I'm going to say one little line. It's RESPECT, find out what it means to me. Because you know what? We're supposed to have 500 people on here. And if I asked each person individually, hey, what does dignity and respect mean to you? We're going to have 500 different answers. Okay. So Bob, can you tell us what does dignity and respect mean to you? And can you explain this a little bit to our audience?
Yes. It means that people respect you and treat you with the way that they would want to be treated, and dignity is when you are when you're not forced to do something that you don't really want to do, and you keep your dignity because you're not asked to do things that will take away your dignity and let you also be respected by others. And it's also important that the people that take care of you respect you and give you dignity too, because if they expect that from people from the people that they take care of, then they need to do the same. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you very much. And so when, so dignity is, you know, respect is kind of an easy word, huh? We hear about that all the time. And you said it perfectly, Bob, treating me the way, or treating other people the way that you want to, be treated. And dignity is really treating people like they know what they're doing. Okay, presuming competence is a word that we use. And the rule talks a lot about this because, you know, for years and years and years, what happens in service world where we all work and live is we kind of assume that you're going to need help with stuff or that you can't do stuff, but what the rule, and that you have to prove that you can do it. Okay, but dignity is more, we're going to assume you can do it until you show that you can't do it. But we're going to be there the whole time supporting you to be as independent as possible. So it's kind of that presuming that people know what they want in their lives, presuming that you know what you want to do for fun. So you guys are going to be having a lot of conversations with your staff so that we can find out what's important, because what's important to me in regards to respect is different than what's important to Bob or Tavarus or anybody that we met earlier today. All right, one other thing that the rule says is that people are going to have freedom from coercion and restraint. So here in Illinois, if an agency has permission to use what's called physical restraint, meaning they will hold someone's arms if they're going to hurt themselves or another person, or we'll just stick with that, hold someone's arms. And if that's going to be something that's going to happen, there's a whole lot of paperwork that we need to do before we can do that, okay? But the rule also says it's freedom from coercion, okay? And the way to think about coercion is if somebody who has, like if my boss, okay, my boss has more power than I do because I report to my boss. Okay, and so sometimes I bet you guys think, hey, everybody's my boss. But I hear lots of people say, well, she's the boss of my house. Okay, so when we have a boss, if our boss is talking us into doing something that we don't want to do, that's called coercion. Okay, like I hate lima beans. Okay, so let's say my boss invites me out to lunch and orders me a plate full of lima beans. And I say, hey, I don't like lima beans. But my boss says, Leanne, you like lima beans. Remember the last time we went out, there were lima beans in your salad. You ate the lima beans. Go ahead, eat the lima beans. Because she's my boss, I'm going to feel like I have to eat the lima beans. Okay, so when the rule says it's freedom from coercion and restraint, we're going to do a lot of talking to staff and to you guys about what does coercion look like, because we don't even realize that we're doing it. Okay, so many times I'll be like, that's great. Well, if I had people who I'm the boss of and I say, hey, I'm a great boss, aren't I? Yes, Leanne, you're a great boss. That's coercion. Okay, so we are going to be doing a lot of work about that, and to train people not to do it and to train all of us how to recognize it. Okay, Tavarus, can you talk to us about keys? Because the keys and privacy go together.
Yes, to a certain extent, because, well, I say to a certain extent because the key to your room is kind of like privacy in the area, because if a person can just use the key to go in your room, what privacy you get, you know? So that's why I said it kind of like together. I know some people may not look at it that way, and they have a right to not look at it that way. But without when I do the privacy and key together, that's why I say, yeah, it kind of goes together to that certain state. And also the key part, it's important to have a key to your home, or if you get good with remembering numbers and all that, you can have the code to your house. Because I know an individual came to me, and the people was head of the self-advocacy group that I was the president at the time. And he was like, he was tired of always had to wait on staff and all that. So he brought the situation towards me and the people that are here was the head of our self-advocacy group at the time. And he gave us his concern. Then we went to the CEO. I ain't gonna lie, I thought the CEO was gonna say no, but no, the CEO was very understanding, and he gave him the code. So it is important if you got a key to your own home and all that. If you are type that, I know we got some staff on it that say, oh, wait, what if the person that loses the key, then there's always a system plan to work behind that too. So it is kind of important if that person is capable of to have their own key to their room or to their house. Yes, let them have the key. But it doesn't say that everybody deserves the key. If the ones that lose it can't control it and all that, then that's why staff and case managers and all that come with another plan so that person can feel comfortable.
Exactly. And they don't come with a plan to say, hey, you lost your key. You don't ever get your key back. They come with a plan for how you're going to be able to use a key to your room. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Okay? Because, some people have never had a key to their room. And you know what? Some of you guys out there may be saying, I don't want a key to my room. And you know what? That's okay. But what the rule says is, hey, you're going to get a lockable door. If you want to use the key, great. If you don't want to use the key, great. Okay? If you don't care about the door being locked while you're in there, hey, that's fine. But maybe you want to lock up your stuff so you know your stuff is safe when you're not there. Like Bob said, when he lived with other people, he'd be wondering who's in his, who's in your stuff when you're not there. So you'll be able to use the key as much or as little as you want. And it may not actually be a key. Like Tavarus said, maybe a number code. Some agencies I've been talking to, they've got thumbprint keys. But the bottom line is that you will be able to lock your room if you want and have a key to your house if you want that. And we are going to work with you. We, staff, case managers, CEOs, like Tavarus said, are going to work with everybody to make sure that it's what they want. You don't have to have a key, but you can have a key. Okay. So, Bob, you moved recently, yeah, and you've had a few big moves in your time in the Illinois service system. Yeah. And so, can you talk a little bit about your move to where you are now?
Yes, I can. I moved downstate because I wanted to live on my own and have my own apartment. And one of the biggest reasons was that I wanted to be able to do advocacy work full time and not go to a neighborhood, and my apartment is very nice, and I'm able to do my work. And one thing I would say is that if I was living where I was living before, it wouldn't be quiet. And now that I'm living on my own, I can do that and be able to have the support I need and still have the privacy and still be able to work. So that is why I moved. And people can say, well, some people can live on their own, and some people can't. In the rule, you have the right to have a key, but you also have the right to privacy. And I know that there's many providers out there that are working on that, but my move to my apartment is giving me more independence and stuff, so it allowed me to make money and stuff like that. So it's very it was very important for me to do so.
Okay, so some of the things, at one point you lived in a Scylla, right? A regular Scylla.
Right.
And what the rule is saying now is that the state of Illinois is going to be required, and they are working really hard on this to get more places for people to live, like Bob. Okay, so every year we have ISCs on here because they wanted to learn about this more so they can help you with this. But every year they're going to ask, hey, do you like living here? Do you want to live somewhere else? Okay, who do you live with? Do you like all your housemates? Would you rather live somewhere else? Would you rather live by yourself like Bob would? Or would you rather have housemates? Now, some people I know have had the same roommates in the same room for years and years and years, and they love their roommate, they love their house, they do not want to move. Other people, like Bob, may want to live by themselves. And so it is totally up to you. Now, this is not to say that when you have your person-centered planning meeting next month, when you say, I want my own apartment, that the ISC is going to say, okay, you can have your own apartment. Remember, we're working on this now, and we still have about 10 months until St. Patrick's Day of 2023. But you're going to be asked, we're going to be asking you these questions. So start thinking about it. Okay. And some of you guys may not make a lot of choices right now. And so the whole system, the DSPs and the case managers and the ISCs, we're going to all be working with you to ask you, hey, what's your choice about this? What would you like to do? What do you want to have for dinner? We're going to talk about food in just a second, but we're going to start asking you to make some choices and decisions and supporting you and helping you when you're doing that. Okay, so Tavarus, can you talk to us a little bit about all the cool stuff that's happening at your organization as far as decorating goes?
Yeah, we actually my organization have took the initiative of letting individuals feel a little bit more comfortable to live in their room. Couple of houses got each of them got their own different color of paint. I mean, it was bizarre to me because I was like, whoa, You know, I thought I was like the little Twilight Zone, like. And then I had a conversation with my former boss. I was like, "Hey, I went to a couple of houses. You know, I said each room had the different color," and he was like, "Yes." And he started breaking it down to me what was going on and about the whole new rule setting and all that. This before I really started, you know, doing these trainings and all that. It's like, oh, okay. And then we initially, you know, like all our homes, maybe I should have missed this with the key part, but I mentioned that.
Yeah.
But all our homes now that each individual in our still homes have their own lock and key to their rooms. And some have refrigerators in it. You know, I mean, they can keep their stuff in it. So I would say to have been taking the necessary steps into this ruling.
Absolutely. So, because it's fun to decorate. And the rule says that you get to decorate your own room and your house because, you know, there's some Scylla homes, they are gorgeous, right? They look like a model home and you walk in and there's no TV in the living room and it looks like it's super fancy.
It's for other people, but for me though.
You know, well, because don't we want our homes to look lived in? Or don't we want our homes to look like we live there and it has our stuff in it? And so that's why the rule says, hey, you can decorate your room, you can work with your housemates to decorate your house, all of those things. So more decisions. And if you're thinking, you guys, this is just too much, don't worry, it's not all going to happen tomorrow. We're just talking about it now so that we can start doing it. Okay. All right. Some more decision making. Tavarus, do you control your own schedule now?
Yes. It's better to that me being alone that I've control on my own schedule. I could get up when I want. Well, you know, I work, so I get up at the time I'm supposed to. But
yep, exactly right.
When I'm not working, I could get up whenever I want. I can go to sleep whenever I want. You know, if I want to take a walk to the store, I could do all of that. You know, I have no, oh, you can't do this at this time. There's no time limit. And I could, if I want to do an activity, you know, I could do the activity on my own. I could do whatever. But somebody did say to me a while back ago that shouldn't always just, you know, run out without letting nobody know where you at and all that. It was like, yeah, you're grown, but it still should be, somebody still should know where you at just in case something happens. You know, they'll know what's your last location, which they was kind of around that because I do have it happen to say get ghosts like it ain't nothing, and then people, oh man, where you at? Oh man, you can't be doing that. And some people get all nervous and worried and all that because I know how to get ghosts in a minute. So I mean, it's good to have that type of freedom, you know, because it carries you a long way.
It's good to have freedom, but that doesn't mean that you don't tell people where you're going. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, so
that's just polite for all the worry warts in your life.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, I had to tune that up a little bit. I mean, when I just feel like I want to go somewhere, I'm gonna do it. It don't always be planned out. You know, just certain things. I just okay. You know what? I'll figure out the house. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and I'll be gone. And you know, it does make sense to let somebody know, like, hey, I can go through this. No, I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Well, and you know, for you guys who live in Scylla or go to day program, when a lot of people live together, sometimes there's schedules like of where, you know, when's your laundry day? When is your day to do the dishes? I don't know about anybody else, but I hate doing the dishes. I would rather vacuum, dust, pretty much do anything but do the dishes. And so maybe instead of me having to do the dishes because it's my turn every week, you know, we rotate chores, maybe I always vacuum and Fred, who hates to vacuum but loves to do the dishes, always does the dishes. Okay, so we're not saying nobody's going to have any responsibilities because we all want to live in nice, clean places. But we are saying that, hey, if there's someplace you want to go, we're going to ask you, where do you want to go? What if you want to do your laundry on a different day, okay, than when you're scheduled? One guy I know, he worked fast food and he worked on Fridays and Saturdays and he had to wash his clothes Saturday morning before he went to work. But at his house, his laundry day was Tuesday. Okay, so it took a lot of work to switch it over to Saturday mornings so that he could have his uniform. And that's what the rule's talking about. Flexibility, how much support you need. What do you want to do for fun? And we had a bunch of home stuff over there, but it's also for where you want to go for fun. Okay, maybe somebody at your house loves karaoke and you don't. So you're going to talk to your case managers. You're going to talk to the ISCs, because one of the best things about the rule when we're talking about autonomy and choosing our schedules, we get to talk about maybe I want to stay home. So what do we need to do as a team so that I can stay home for an hour? Okay, so I don't have to go to karaoke or bowling. And I can do what I want to do for fun. All right, control of money. The rule says that people are going to have control of their money. And that means all of their money. Now, does this mean that I get to go spend my entire paycheck on whatever I want? Boy, do I wish, okay? Because I have responsibilities.
That's
I
true.
need to pay my rent. I need to pay my phone bill. I need to pay all this stuff. And so if I needed help with that, I'd ask for help. Okay. Bob, can you talk a little bit about the control that you have of your money, even though you receive services in your house?
I have complete control of my life. I have my own digging account that the only name that's on me is mine, and I have another card that I can use to take out money when I need to, and I can I can go to public money and stuff, and I do know that people, some of you might not be able to do that, but it's a great feeling to feel to have control of your own finances, because then you can choose what you want to buy or choose what you want to do, and it's just a good feeling to have control of something, because lots of us, including myself, I didn't have lots of control before, and it's good to have control of financial control. That way you can do things, and I can go buy a pizza, or I can ask someone to go to the store and buy a pizza, so I don't have to go buy something. But if I want to buy something, I can do that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the next thing that the rule says is that people have access to food at any time. Okay. So that is what it says. Because maybe you don't want to eat breakfast in the morning. Some people don't like breakfast. Maybe you don't want to eat breakfast at 6 in the morning. You'd rather eat it at 8 in the morning. Okay. Maybe you want a snack when you get home from work. Maybe you don't. Access to food at any time means that as an adult, you get to decide when and what you eat. Okay. Now, some people may need to lose weight. Some people may have diabetes. As someone with diabetes, I have to watch my carbohydrates, okay? So I don't get to eat a lot of bread or pasta, and I watch that. Does that mean that I never eat bread or pasta? No, okay? And so what this is going to mean is working with your staff to figure out what you want to eat, when you want to eat it, and still be healthy. Okay, so this is going to be, when we talk to moms and dads and a lot of staff, we spend a lot of time on this, and I'm looking and we're running out of time. But you guys need to know that you can talk to your staff and let them know that you want something different. You can talk to staff and let them know that you want to have a snack in the morning or don't want to eat breakfast. That's your right to do. And staff can help work with you. I have a friend who has diabetes who lives in Ascilla. And when they have pizza, he lives with a bunch of guys. And when they have pizza, everybody else was getting 3 pieces, but he was getting 2 because he has diabetes like me. And so our dietitian said 2 pieces of pizza is enough carbs for you. Okay. Well, he told his staff, look, how about I'll have my 2 pieces of pizza, and then for my 3rd piece, I'm just going to eat the toppings. Okay, so then I'm not having the bread. And the staff were thrilled because now he's thrilled. He was fine with just having the toppings. It was all his idea because he wants to stay healthy. And so, because, you know, staff don't want to be the food police, or if they do, I wouldn't want them living with me. But we would rather work with people to figure out what they want. So, Bob, Tavarus, can you have a visitor at any time?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you can. Okay. And the rule says that for people living in Scilla, they can have visitors at any time. Okay. So again, this means we've been talking this whole time really about talking. Okay. Because if I have a bunch of roommates and all of us want to have mom and dad come stay over the same night, might be a little crowded. But we're going to be talking to the people we live with about who we want to come over, when we want them to come over. We're certainly don't want, when I had a roommate when I was young, we talked to each other and said, you know what, if we don't know someone really well, we're not going to have them come stay over at our house. Because we wanted to be safe. We were 2 girls living together. So we just said, nah, unless they're really good friends, they're not going to come over. Okay. One of the last big things the rule says is that your house, you need to be able to get around in your house. Okay. Bob?
Yeah. My house, I can get, my husband is accessible, so I can get into my room, I can get into my bathroom, but all the rule says that you have to have an accessible place to live and be able to access the kitchen, access the bathroom, because who would want to live in a house that you can't access the bathroom to go to the bathroom?
Exactly right.
And I'll give you the perfect example. I have a bathroom, but someone told me it was accessible. And my bathroom to this day is still had a bathtub in it. So I'm working on getting the bathtub removed so I can take a shower. But that's a perfect example of accessibility for someone that's in a wheelchair.
Yep, exactly right. And of all the rules, everything we just talked about, that can be changed except for the accessibility. Okay, so sometimes there's going to be restrictions for people as you guys, as people receiving services, are learning things, as staff are learning things. There may be a time when there are restrictions or modifications to what you can do, okay? And there's even, the rule talks about that before a restriction can be put in place, the organization has to show that we've tried everything possible to not have a restriction, but we have to have a restriction. So a couple rules around this is that the organization has to show that the restriction's temporary, and that even if you have a guardian, you have to agree to the restriction. Okay, so you're going to learn about this. You're going to know what's happening, and you need to agree to it. So everything we talked about that's good for people who live in SILA is for people who live in who work in community day services too, like freedom to control schedules. You're going to be going out into the community. We've been talking to agencies and saying, hey, we can't make a schedule a month in advance. We don't know what we want to do next week. And so it's not going to be the staff making the schedule anymore. The staff are going to ask you, what do you want on the schedule? What do you want to do next week? What do we want to do today? So again, we also as staff have to give you ideas and share information about what there is out there, so you have stuff to pick from. Okay, so there's just going to be a lot of talking. You talking to the staff, you talking to the ISCs. Okay, at day program, the rule says that if the staff can change their lunch times, then people receiving services should be able to change their lunch times. People should be able to stay home if they feel sick. All of these things are in the rule. So we talked a little bit. This says transition plan, and we are in the midst of it right now. Okay, so the state is looking at stuff, and then they may or may not come visit some organizations. But the state is working to make sure that all of the organizations are doing what we need to do, so that we can just keep going under the new rule, only doing really neat stuff and having a whole lot more choice. Hopefully things will continue to go. They're going pretty fast now. And that's why we're having this training, so that you guys know. And you know what? Even this training is because of the rule. Because the rule says, hey, the people who receive services need to know what's going on. So our final rule review, I don't know if we need this. Do you think we need this, guys, or should we ask for a couple of questions?
Couple of questions.
Let's ask a couple of questions.
All right, so we say a couple of questions. I'm gonna put, while we're answering questions, this is my email and Leanne's email and Leanne's phone number. You wanna talk to the guys, call me and I will put you through. But we thought, maybe we won't publicize everybody's cell phone numbers. All right, so we have a couple of questions. We have somebody who raised their hand, and I see a couple. The webinar is being recorded, and we do have some comments from staff, but I don't see any comments or questions from people receiving services. So let me find, I see that we have 2 participants with their hands raised. So let me see how I can do this. I might need some help, Seth, because I can't tell who has their, because remember everybody, like we talked about, this webinar is for people who receive services. There have been plenty of webinars for staff. There are office hours every week for staff at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. So if you have questions or comments as not a person who receives services, then you can go ahead and ask the division at those meetings. So Maureen, can you, if you can type your questions into the chat, or let me know. Do you have okay, so Maureen, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi. I just wanted to ask the guys, what do they do if they feel they're not being treated right or won't be allowed to do what they want to do?
I have a question for you. What do you do if you, what do you do and there's something you don't want to do?
Okay, that's good.
Did you hear Bob? He said, well, what do you do, Maureen?
Oh, what do you, I thought you say that back to the person that won't let you do it.
Nope.
I say, but I like ice cream.
Yep.
Or because I want to do something.
Okay, then.
But if they won't listen to me, then
you go to their boss.
Tell my parents.
Okay, then like Tavarus just said, if someone doesn't listen to what you say, then you ask for help from a staff, or if it's a staff that is not listening to what you have to say, then you go to someone else that can help you. And if that doesn't work, you keep going on the ladder until you find someone that will listen to what you have to say.
Equip for equality.
There you go.
Or like
and oops, go ahead, Tavarus.
Like the question was said, like if they don't do what we asked them to do, or do want them to do, then go to their boss and tell them what's going on.
All right. Well, and that's a perfect ending to this, because we're now 2 minutes over, everybody. And we said we were going to be over right at 2 o'clock. So if you have questions that weren't answered, you can send us an email. Don't forget about these. Don't forget about the 10 o'clock meetings every Tuesday with the state if you have questions or comments for the state. So thank you for Maureen for that question. Anybody else, feel free to email us. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all. Have a blessed day.
Have a great weekend. Hopefully sunny.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.